So, welcome to the stream, everybody. Today, as you can read by the title, we're going to be doing a tier list for Melody of Memory. The person I am joined by in this live stream is my friend the Frozen Cavern. You've seen him in a lot of Melody of Memory streams and other Kingdom Hearts related streams in the past. So, if you want, feel free to subscribe to him. His link will also be in the description for people watching this over on YouTube. But we only have like 10 tricks to even talk about. There's only 10 tricks in the entire game. We read in your comments as we discuss like each trick one by one. So are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
Alright, so I'm gonna start off the stream by just saying this straight up. Harsh Judge, for me, that's a S tier. I hate this trick so freaking much because like this trick requires you to be like a perfectionist at the game. And like this combined with literally anything, to be honest with you, is just annoying. The only time Harsh Judge isn't a problem is I'd say maybe on some slower paced songs, maybe. And during glide segments. It's really funny when like they hit you a Harsh Judge. The was in my opinion would be one of the worst tricks in the game. And it only hits you during a glide segment, which is where it's basically useless. So that's the main thing. I don't know. What do you think?
We do have to take glide segments into account because sometimes those segments would end up being completely useless. But for me, I think Harsh Judge is mainly at a B, mainly because like normally I'm already like good at like hitting notes. So that's not a problem. And usually whenever it happens, it's not that much of an issue. But whenever it is an issue, I'll end up missing like a bunch of notes, and I'm like, I don't know how I missed those.
Yeah. I see. I understand from your perspective because you're just like good at the game. But for someone who is like just average, I'm just
These
like
tricks are going to have very different rankings, especially with the fact that we mentioned earlier how we're ranking these differently.
Yeah. Cavern is making his own tier list as well. I just happen to be streaming mine. So for Harsh Judge, for me, it's S tier. Because when I think about even more, what's good, Sith, by the way? Welcome to the stream. Harsh Judge combined with No Guide is really terrible. I think that is one of the most destructive trick combinations in the entire game. So that with No Guide is insanely difficult. Harsh Judge with Vanishing Enemies is also not the greatest. Harsh Judge with I forget what this one's called, but I know this is the one where they're basically faking you out with the tricks. It's like I forget what it's called.
False targets, I think.
False targets. Yeah, false targets. The pink one. Oh, you guys can't see my mouse on the stream. I'll fix that. But that is annoying too. That's really annoying. I don't know. Harsh Judge just combined with like anything, to be honest, is just a really annoying trick. It's like that trick will take one of the more mediocre tricks, one of the tricks that like I feel like I can deal with it most of the time, like interfering enemies, for example, which I would personally put at like maybe like a C or a low B. It takes a trick like this, which normally is not an issue at all, and makes it just that much more annoying. But that's just my take, because like when you look back at the Melody Memory versus streams, a lot of the times when I end up losing to people, sometimes it's definitely because I'm just garbage, but it's also because I'm so garbage that I can't deal with a Harsh Judge like by myself without someone else getting like a trick of equal caliber. There's been so many moments just where I've been winning the match, and at the end of the match I get hit with Harsh Judge, No Guide, and my whole life is just ruined. So I don't know, for me, easy S tier. What do you think about interfering enemies though? I don't know if that's your trick name, but that's you know it's the one where the enemies splatter on your screen.
Yeah, that is interference.
Okay, so I was right. What do you think about that one?
For me, interference is like an A because it does affect the gameplay in a very large way.
Put that above Harsh Judge?
It's
That's crazy.
For me, interference is a lot more fun to deal with because like harsh judge half the time I don't really notice it, and then the other time it's just like I don't feel like I missed that. Where interference is also kind of there, but it's also funny seeing the enemies just splat against the screen. Aside from when like any form of triple notes appear and the screen is entirely blocked, that's where it's like, okay, this is kind of not fun anymore.
Yeah. Okay, hold on, but I got a question. So is your S tier like like that's the most annoying, or is that like the least annoying?
Um, S tier is like impacts the game the most and is the most fun to deal with.
What does that mean?
Um, basically because
I'm ranking it like
I'd
my
have
S
to.
tier is like this trick. I like this trick is annoying, and like this trick messes with the gameplay so much for me. Bottom for me is all right. This isn't that bad to deal with sometimes.
One I think we can agree with, and this would also kind of help with my example, is tiny targets. Tiny targets for me is D because like almost never does that mess me up. There was only one time ever where tiny targets has actually tripped me up before because I think it was Axel. His body literally blocked it and I couldn't see it. I might have had high guide on it too. I'm not even sure, but that's like the only time that's ever tripped me up. So it interferes with the gameplay the least, and it's the only fun aspect of it is that the targets are tiny. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
I
Oh, and
think
also paired with interference is like that doesn't do anything.
yeah, I think tiny targets mixed with no guide can be a little bit annoying for sure. I think vanishing enemies, it's weird cuz vanishing enemies can debatably be the worst trick. Okay, if you don't know a song, it's almost like always one of the worst tricks to get. Like if you're not super great at a song, like you're just average at it, maybe you get like B ranks, some A ranks here and there. You get a couple misses, a lot of goods. Like if you're that type of player, this trick, both of these tricks really are just they're just a yikes. But I don't
They
know.
are very dangerous ones to get paired with.
It's like A or B for me though.
Um, I think sneaky enemies is more. It can sometimes be more manageable because you're able to at least somewhat react to those in the case that like hide guide disappears. But if you do still have the guide, then neither of them will be that much of a problem. But if hide guide is on, then they're a massive issue sometimes. But I'd say sneaky enemies is more manageable to deal with than vanishing. Because vanishing, well, no, with sneaky you can at least see them, but vanishing is just like, yeah, you just kind of have to know the song at that point.
Yeah.
Because because sneaky enemies is more manageable to deal with for me, I'd put it in A.
Understandable. It's like for me, both of these tricks aren't even that bad to deal with unless they're combined with something. That's why they go kind of like in the middle. Cause like by themselves, I don't even on songs I don't know that much. Like if you still got the guide, it's a really manageable trick to deal with. You know, because a lot of people I know. For me, I'm looking more so at the guide than I am the enemy animations, personally at least. That might be why I lose, who knows. But for me, vanishing enemies is usually only that annoying if it's paired with a harsh judge or a no guide, or it's just paired with something that makes it like way more annoying. So that's how it is for me. How do you feel
Yeah,
about
I'll put them both at B because
yeah?
of that.
What about well, before we get to no guide, because that's probably going to be that might be a debatable one. We'll see. Let's talk about the HP swap one. Now, this trick, I feel like doesn't matter that much at higher levels of play, because when you're at a high level of play in Melody of Memory, you're more
It's
so
non-existent.
it's like you're fighting for who has like the least amount of goods or more excellence, because both of you are probably going to full chain the song. However, HP swap for the general audience of Melody of Memory, the general player base, is a annoying trick. And even for me on songs that I'm not as good at, like for example, I'll use when I was fighting Bioroxis as an example. We were doing Dark Domination, and neither of us were super great at the song or anything. But what happened was I guess he didn't do that good in the beginning of the song, so his HP was like, he was like a couple hits away from like just dying, right? And I had most of my health. He HP swapped me, and I ended up being behind because, you know, when you die, when you lose all your health in Melody of Memory, instead of like in the normal game where you have to retry, you fail, in Melody of Memory, what actually happens in versus mode, you just lose a ton of points. You lose like 1,000,000 points or something like that. I know it's a large number, but it was a large enough number to completely put me behind him when he missed like 90% of the first half of the song. Luckily, I still ended up winning that match. But if you guys remember that in that video, that stuff like that has happened to me before, and it's mostly happened on Dark Domination. So HP swap for people who are like low health and they like switch up on you, it's like a comeback mechanic. It's like the sparking in Dragon Ball Fighters or the X Factor in Marvel. That's what HP swap is for for players. All right, let's talk about a trick that's really underrated, and I must give this trick an A tier. That trick is point penalty. Points in Melody of Memory. Like when you're like, even though I get washed by Cavern a lot of the time, like he wins, like he beats me most of the time, like matches are still pretty close. Same thing with like when you're fighting other people, like when you're fighting for those full chains, or for those excellent runs, sometimes you will get a miss here or there. Like there's been a lot of matches I've seen where people will get all excellence but 2 misses. And in those situations, sometimes it can still make the comeback, because if that opponent got a lot of goods, then yeah, they could still win despite the misses, because goods are really bad to get, and it's way easier to get a string of goods than it is to get a string of misses. But point penalty basically makes it so that when you miss, you lose even more points. And that sucks. It really sucks for songs you're not like super perfect at, because even the most high tier of Melody of Memory players, if they get hit with the destructive trick combination, like a no guide and interfering enemies, or a no guide and vanishing enemies, then they might miss a note or two. And if they have this on or something, I don't know, if they, let's say they had this on like vanishing enemies and this, or no guide and this, it might make the difference between them winning or losing. So I'd give this trick an A tier, because it's like it definitely it will definitely mess with you without you even realizing it.
Yeah, I feel like point penalty is a really basic type of trick, because most of the other ones are like really unique for this specific game.
Yeah.
But point penalty is like, it just punishes the player for missing notes, which on its own isn't even that bad. And really, for me, the only thing that I can see it being a big issue with is harsh judge, because again, those times where it's just like, I really feel like I didn't miss that, and it's a lot more important. But most of the time, point penalty is fine, so I'd also give point penalty an A.
Yeah, it's just like for those tiny instances where when you do miss, and it's just extra punishing because of this. So that's why it gets put above some of the others for me, for a little bit more annoying. I don't know. I could give it a high B, but we could go back and review this. What's the pink trick called again? False targets?
Yeah, that's what that one is.
All right, let's talk about this one. You can go.
False targets is another one of those weird ones for me, because most of the time it doesn't really trick me up, but then other times it does, and I'm like, okay, that one was actually pretty fair to get tricked up by. So it's probably in like B, because it's like straight down the middle, doesn't affect the gameplay like too much, while also still having enough of an effect on the gameplay. And whenever I do miss, it doesn't always feel like it's out of my control.
I'd give it a high C because I feel like I almost never get messed up by this trick. Almost never. I probably have before without realizing it, but it's like I think it's one of those tricks where it's like if you're super nervous about winning and you're like I don't know, you're not.
You have to be really antsy to
Yeah,
get messed up by it a
yeah,
lot.
you have to be
That's the thing.
super antsy for sure. It's one of those tricks where it's like if you're not on your A game, this trick will mess you up a little bit, but otherwise, it's really not. It barely affects the gameplay like at all. I'd say at most this trick is at its worst with vanishing enemies, but even then, it's like nah, it's not that bad because you can obviously
Even,
tell
yeah,
which
you
ones
still
are
have the
false.
regular guide.
Yeah, it's cause like hey, so you still have the regular guide on top. I think if this trick got rid of the regular guide, then that would be like that would probably just be unfair. This trick could be like S tier, but
I think it can be paired with no guide.
can it? I think it does.
Maybe.
I don't even think it like works at that point though, right?
Um.
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't get rid of the guide. It just adds the fake targets. So it would add
Maybe.
fake targets while also getting rid of like the regular guide.
Maybe. I feel like I haven't had that happen to me enough though, so I don't know. I'm gonna
Yeah,
just give it
I don't
high
remember it
C.
happening. So
I'm gonna just give it a high C. In my opinion, the high score trick is the worst one. Both you and the opponent are very good at the game and get constant rainbow excellence. Yeah, yeah. Alright. Let's do next one. We only have two left. Let's do let's do Trick Drain. So Trick Drain
for me,
could be
Trick Drain. Whenever Trick Drain happens, like in the first half of the song, I guess, when only one trick is used, it just like okay, your opponent can't use a trick right now, but it can still use one later on. But in exchange for that, you're almost able to use another trick right after that. But even then, it's just like, cool, your first trick didn't really do too much, and your second one's gonna affect me now. But even then, most tricks on their own don't really do much. But if it was to happen during the second half of the song, where there's two tricks all the time, that's really important both for taking away the opponent's tricks as well as like giving you trick drain on top of another trick, whatever that one may be, and then either potentially extending that one trick that's still there, or while adding on another trick, or swapping that one trick out for a different one and adding another one, which will have your opponent react to that on the fly. So
I'm gonna give it a low B. I'm gonna put it behind Sneaky Enemies.
yeah, I'd say that's a B
Yeah,
because
because I think that affects gameplay a lot more than false targets. But I also don't feel like it. I don't feel like it makes or breaks a lot of matches at the same time.
right.
So probably like a solid B.
It's like, is it necessarily fun to deal with it either? Because like sometimes it's just like, eh, it kind of exists, but then other times it's like, okay, that's actually kind of important.
Yeah. All right. Now there was a reason I've been saving this one for last, and it's because I hate this trick and it's going in S tier. No guide. No guide is whack. Like the only songs where no guide doesn't affect me are songs that I know I can get all excellent on, just like that. Like songs that I'm literally just like perfect at. Like anything else, no guide is annoying. It's never not annoying to do. This no guide debatably is worse to me than Harsh Judge. It might be worse than Harsh Judge for me. This combined with Harsh Judge is ridiculous because it's like getting goods in melody and memory. It's not good. I've said that line so many times, but getting goods is not good. And if you don't know the song super duper well, you're not super great at hitting all the notes, and like you're still trying to work towards that all excellent, maybe you're able to full chain the song, this will ruin your full chain. It will ruin your all excellent. It will destroy your entire game. So no guide sucks. That's just how it is. Like the only way to beat no guide is just through sheer repetition of like doing the song. That's how I feel. Same thing with Harsh does. That's why I put them on the same tier.
But yeah, going off of that, Hide Guide, again on its own, is not even that bad. But this paired with like three different tricks can be a really bad combination. Because if it's paired with interference, you just straight up can't see the notes.
Literally
If it's
can't
paired with,
see.
well, yeah, if it's paired with interference, vanishing enemies, or sneaking enemies, you can't see any of them. You just have to know the song, which in that case can be really fun. But if you don't know the song, then it's kind of infuriating sometimes. But most of the time, I'm usually able to deal with it. There's been a few times where it's like, okay, I actually don't know this song. In that case, it's just like, okay, if I learn the song, then I'd actually be fine. And most people usually don't play really out there songs that most people don't play. So, eh. For me, I put it at A.
Okay. So, what is your tier list looking like, Cavern? Send that over.
It doesn't really affect the game like at all. So I literally don't have any opinion on is it even fun or not because it kind of just exists. And then like seeing up is like, how much does it affect the game for me and is it fun? So basically at C it's just like, okay, these don't really affect the game for me much, but when they do affect the game, it's usually negatively. Where A, where it is like, okay, it affects the game a lot, and it's fun to deal with.
HP swap D. That's the only change I'm going to make, though. And that's going to be our Melody of Memory tier list. I will either upload the stream to YouTube or archive the video to, archive the video and put it on YouTube. Thank you guys for coming out, though. I really do appreciate you. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Frozen Cavern. His link will be down below in the description. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out, guys. Bye. We will be streaming Genshin later again, by the way. So, see ya.